Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I hope you've had a good week. Mine's been all right. We had a chance to talk to a lot of folks, both online and in person, on my campaign for city council, as well as, and all the issues around that. For those who don't know, my name is Dave Sutliff-Atias. If you've stumbled upon this video somehow, whether it's live or otherwise on YouTube or on Facebook, I'm running for a seat on the Rochester City Council in Rochester, New York, to represent the East District, and that election will be happening on November 5th this year, 2019. So if you're a registered voter and you live in this district, I hope you check out some of the stuff that I'm talking about, whether it's here, daveforchange.org, or meeting face-to-face, as well as check out all of the people who are running in the Democratic primary, which there's 5 of them, and that'll be taking place the end of June sometime. The date's not in my head, whatever that last Tuesday is. And coming out of that, it'll be the winner of the Democratic primary against me. So please do the research. If anything, anybody who runs as a Green will tell you, we've got the goods on all of the issues. So please do the research and vote your values, vote accordingly. So as I promised, this week we're going to talk about the environment, specifically around Rochester. And while a lot of this is going to be in terms of climate change, I'm going to talk about the environment in general and some of the things. Now, this by no means is going to be exhaustive. Just as I've announced that this week we're going to be doing the environment, I had people messaging me and making comments on various posts online that, make sure you talk about this and that. Well, here's the thing. I'm going to run through some ideas of mine, which you can also read more about with some really exhaustive links, which is really exciting over at daveforchange.org in the issues section. And but as the campaign goes along, as well as once I'm voted into office come November, I definitely want to talk with folks about what we can do together to get some change going. And which this won't be a spoiler alert or anything like that, but after tonight, next week, I want to take some of the things that we talk about, and I want to talk about how it's an opportunity and how it actually, if we do things, if we tackle climate change right, we're not only going to be dealing with that, but we're going to be helping ourselves out in a number of different ways. And next week, I want to talk about that. It's kind of, I hope I'm not misusing this word, but intersectionality between issues. And I know that tends to talk about various identity politics stuff, but I'm using it in a different way, kind of. So anyway, let's get to stuff on the environment. Now, we have to get involved. And what I mean by, yes, individuals, but I mean government, which technically government is supposed to be us, people, right? And we can't wait for so-called market forces to come in and help us with this, because the capitalism has shown that their only focus and their main thing, and sometimes even legally, they're only supposed to be focusing on maximizing their profits for their stockholders or for the owners of whatever business, however their corporation is structured. So relying on market forces to really do what we really need to do, it's not going to work. This isn't something like, this building didn't work out and we ended up being vacant or something like this. This is our food supply. This is people who will die, literally, because we didn't take care of climate change. So, as I quickly mentioned, there's some opportunities here to really do some great stuff that will help us in a number of ways, but let's just stay focused on the environment and climate change. The first thing, and I've talked about this in other ways before when it comes to housing, but we need to start really greening up our zoning codes. And you can call it green coding or however you want to do it. But, and I'm not going to say I'm the expert on this. In fact, we would need to bring in these experts in both housing and development and the environment and change our zoning codes so that I would like to see that everything that's being built or significantly fixed go toward a goal of being run 100% renewable power. Now, can we do that today? Can we do that this week? No, but we need to start codifying this concept so that it becomes a reality. Again, folks are not going to do it themselves. They're going to do it the easy way, the way they've been doing it, and all they're going to do is continue to build businesses and fix up businesses and do projects and do quote development the way we always done it, and that's relying on fossil fuels. And we have to put this into law, whether it's through codes or legislation or both, so that anything, and it sounds like an extreme, like to go from just what we have now to that's it, 100% renewable, it has to be. Well, then scale it up. Start with half, 50%, and then letting folks know within 10 years it needs to be 100%. Something like that, but it has to be done. We've got to do this. And the sooner the better. I also want to see, this is going to do with some zoning as well, start being able to start using open public spaces, things that were not being used right now, whether it's they're abandoned or it's the city owns them, to start creating solar and wind farms. Now, I know that there's one. The city's done one, I believe, and that energy is supposed to be taking care of the energy for City Hall, but we have a lot of empty land in the city, which we can use to our benefit. I don't think we need to put buildings in every piece of land. First of all, we need some green space for sure. And secondly, we need some space to put some of these renewable energy sources. And solar won't work all year round, and it's effective more or less, it's varied. I know I'm about 10, 12 feet away from some solar panels right up above. And because I'm recording this from our attic at the house, and we've got solar panels right up above my head. And I can tell you, it's not a panacea. Obviously, cloudy days, you don't get as much. And in the winter, you don't get as much. So that, along with wind, and we need to start looking at some geothermal and making it something that's done by our city government, which supposedly represents us and is supposed to be made up by us. So it's really not some faraway entity doing this top down. It's people who are in government. They live in the city. It'll benefit them. It'll benefit the rest of us, and it'll benefit me when I'll be both, when I get elected in. But we need to start making this handled by the government to really force it through. We can't wait for capitalism to do this. This is an emergency. It has to be now. I think we should put wind turbines around Durand Eastman Park and even into the lake where the city has jurisdiction. And I know that in where the county's concerned, some people had issues with that, about how it looked. We need to do a few things. We need to start with a advertising campaign I'll say it, this is going to sound cheesy, but some way to make wind turbines sexy, so to speak. Hip, in now, that all the cool kids are doing it, because it's really important. And I've lived in places where there's wind turbines, and granted, I did not live right under them. I'm not advocating that we put wind turbines in huge ones in people's backyards, but we should be putting it in open spaces. And it's not, well, two things. First of all, designs are changing. I know that the wind turbines that we all think of are those ginormous ones, and those are cool too. But we have folks who, and all over the world, who are messing with designs in terms of that are not just vertical, that are also horizontally based, and actually are more efficient. And we should be looking into some of those. Some of them are actually, they're like artistic sculptures almost that create energy from wind. And we can do that too in more public areas as opposed to public parks and where folks aren't around too much. And if you're going to start talking about birds, you can look this up on the web search engine of your choice. Tall buildings kill more birds than wind turbines do. So if you really have an issue with birds, then, and I'm not saying don't care about birds, but if that's really your main issue of why we should not have wind turbines, then you may want to look about getting active in terms of tearing down tall buildings. Not that we should. I'm just kind of comparing it here. And there's ways technologically to keep birds away. It won't be perfect, but to make it better. For what we already have now, I was talking about building new stuff, solar farms, wind, geothermal, but we have buildings now and we have infrastructure in place, and we should play with that, and we should do some things to that to help us both in energy creation and dealing with climate change. And simple one is rooftop gardens, even just growing grass on roofs, painting them white, the ones that we can't grow things on, which will also help. And we should create funding for that. That should not be just based on for rich people who can do it on these new expensive condos that are being built that we're paying for with our tax dollars. This should be on older buildings that have been around for a while, and there should be funding available not only for folks to have solar and wind. And I got to talk one more thing about home wind turbines in just a second, but there should be funding available to paint roofs white, which helps with climate change and energy costs, but also doing rooftop gardens and agriculture, stuff like that. We need to change our zoning. Did you know that based on our zoning codes, we're not allowed to have smaller wind turbines in our houses, in our backyards? That needs to be changed as well. Will that solve everything? No, but it's a brick in that wall. So we need to change that zoning code right away. I do know some folks who do not live in the city of Rochester who have smaller wind turbines as part of you have a well-balanced breakfast or something like that. Well, as part of their well-balanced energy plan, and as well as doing solar and other things, they also have a small wind turbine in their backyard, and that should be allowed as well. And so we need to change the zoning codes for that. Okay, so now I'm going to get into some stuff that's not about energy. I'm going to talk about some soil issues and some pollution issues, and it will have an effect on climate change. But this is interesting. I actually had coffee with someone today, and I have no idea if he wants me to say his name, so I won't, just to be safe. But he's more than welcome to chime in here in the comments going, hey, he was talking about me. And we were talking about mycoremediation. And basically what that is, it's a fancy schmancy word, and it really is about using mushrooms to get rid of pollution in soil and in water. And you can kind of look this up. I'm actually in the middle of reading a book that not so much about mushrooms, but about fungi in general, that also attaches to trees. Depending on the kind of mushroom and the type of contaminant we're talking about, mushrooms can deal with anything from chemicals that would hurt us to literally radiation. And from my reading so far, and again, it's been by no means exhaustive, from that and my own research and from what I've heard talking to other people, some mushrooms can, while not make radioactive material not radioactive, it can definitely offset it and make it so that it's much less harmful and reduce it to what would be a huge pile of radioactive garbage to a smaller pile, something that we can deal with a little bit better. I still don't believe we should be dealing with nuclear energy. That is something that I do not think we should be doing. I don't believe it's safe. But this is something to deal with radioactivity. Contaminants we've already done to various places. So using mycoremediation to deal with our brownfields, you can talk about over in Plex, and I know I'm running for the East District, but there are brownfields here. There's the place on East Main Street that they've been trying to fix for a long time that they're going to build the police station parking lot on, and some folks will tell you that that's not a done deal yet, but if you go to presentations, the police are saying that this is what is going to happen, that it's kind of a done deal. So it's one of those things where, yeah, we want your opinion, but we're going to go ahead and do it anyway. But my point is, one of the places that one of the parcels they're building this on is still a brownfield, and something that could be remediated using specific type of mushrooms depending on the contaminants there. So I think that the city, in terms of our arborist and in terms of the maintenance department, we should be looking into, and it's using these type of mushrooms to deal with some of these contaminants in brownfields and to make our soil much more habitable for urban agriculture, which would help with climate change, which would help with our food supply, et cetera, et cetera. So more on that coming. I'm hoping to do an actual platform plank just on mushrooms, as strange as that sounds. But as I'm learning more and I'm trying to talk to more people about this, I want to gather more information before I try and talk about something I really don't know that much about. But I'm really excited about the possibilities of this. I also want to look at the process of starting a municipal composting service. Now, we do have one. It's a small one, for-profit, here in Rochester, and by no means would I be looking to put them out of business, but we need to do more composting, and that would eliminate or come close to eliminating food waste that goes into the environment, helping create healthier soil, and again, we could help support urban agriculture. We do some composting. The city does mostly in terms of leaves and green and brown material, but not a lot of food waste, and I would like to see us start doing that on a municipal basis. Other cities and towns have done this. This wouldn't be anything. We wouldn't be blazing a trail. We would just be making that trail a little wider and a little bit more well used. But it is something we should do. It'll probably save us costs on our refuse, our stuff that goes to landfills, while helping us in other areas. And if we want to, and again, I want to talk about this next week, how we can use something like this to create for as an economic driver in the city. It doesn't necessarily have to be municipal, but by all means, the city's going to have to get it started. And I want to save that for next week. Okay, I want to bring the economics in next week. All right, this might be a little bit controversial. I want to start banning single-use plastics. I know the state's doing the plastic bag ban. I want to do it for all plastics, single-use in the city. And that's predominantly a lot of takeout containers, things like that. People have been throwing around the word styrofoam, and I posted a article this week that Buffalo's looking to ban, quote, styrofoam, and someone gently corrected me and said styrofoam is actually one specific thing. It's a trademarked name of a certain product, but I think that what this person was telling me that we're talking about just that plastic petroleum-based takeout container, single-use plastic type stuff in general, and that is. So whatever terminology you want to use for that we should ban that. And again, this could be an economic opportunity, which I'm going to talk about next week, but this needs to get out of our landfill. We need to stop making it. Interestingly enough, I know I'm going off on tangents. I found another article. It was actually a news report from a TV station in Iowa, of all places, on a company in Utah that is found a way to take plastics and reconfigure them back to the petroleum, to diesel fuel in which they came. And I reached out to the company to ask, okay, that's really great. The way I put it was, this is really great. I'm really glad that you're getting plastics out of landfills and preventing them from going to landfills. But is there any way you can turn these plastics into something that's not a fossil fuel? Because it's, you want to get stabbed by a knife or you want to get shot, in which way you want to die. And it's pretty much, I appreciate the plastics part, but if you're creating fossil fuels, that's not helping. It's really not. And probably the energy it takes to do that makes things worse overall. So if there's a way to turn these plastics, once they are ground up and turned into almost like pellet type configurations, if there's a way to turn them into something else that's not fossil fuel, that would be awesome. I don't know if we can put it back in the ground. I know there's the movement to keep oil in the ground, but I don't think we can put it back. So, so stopping single-use plastics, I think, is really important. If we can, I really want to start taking a look at, and I don't know if one person on City Council can do this, but I would definitely advocate within City Hall and talk to members of the mayor's staff in terms of looking at ways the city can, if not go into business for ourselves, foster cooperative businesses that could look into recycling stuff a little bit more completely. I know that because we haven't been shipping our stuff over to China anymore because they've smartened up and they won't accept our junk, that a lot of municipalities are scaling back the recycling or just taking it and throwing it away themselves and not telling folks. And I honestly don't know if that's what's happening with us in Monroe County, but I'd like to take a look at how we can turn this into an economic opportunity, again, next week, but we should look into literally expanding our recycling and not contracting it. Okay, I've saved the most difficult one to do for last because really a lot of, other than huge corporations in the military, climate change is really affected the most by how we move about, how we transport ourselves. And everyone says this, that Rochester is a car-based culture, but no one's willing to do anything to change it. Our public transportation system, our GRTA, is a hot mess. It's been a hot mess, and the way it's going, it probably will be. And we need to figure out a way to get more control over it. It's its own entity, but government, mostly at the state and county levels, kind of pull the strings on it, mostly through funding. And even though they're contracting services, they're actually having less service out in the suburban areas. And apparently that's not feasible financially. I get the point about needing to be financially responsible, but it is an investment and it can be an economic driver. It's like school. School should not make money for the government or for a corporation. It's an investment in our society, and public transportation should be the same thing. So I believe there is a platform plank on how we should be paying for all of the stuff that I'm talking about. And if you go to dayforchange.org, you can check that out, because taking hold of our public transportation and giving it more funding and maybe reducing some of our GRTA administrative bonuses might help out as well. And maybe not filling in the position that they created for Maggie Brooks when she leaves, like not filling that in, that might, help out with a couple $100,000 in terms of salary and benefits. I'm sure we can use that towards better service as well. But my point was, so as they're contracting services to the suburbs, the higher percentage of users of our GRTA are city members, city residents, and we really don't have a say on how that works. Whenever you approach our GRTA, they just say, great, we'd love to provide more service, give us more money to do that. Like literally from the city, not as opposed to them rearranging what they're doing. So I have no opposition to giving our GRTA more money. I just want more say in how it's used, because we don't have a lot of say. And personally, I've dealt with them in a previous job working for the Center for Disability Rights and their paratransit operation, which is horrible. But paratransit is horrible all over the nation. But it's pretty bad here, and trying to deal with our GRTA on this is like banging your head up against the wall. It's really kind of a pain. So we need to get more control over our public transportation, put more funding into it, and when I put out some feelers on Facebook and just asked, so what would it take for you to ride the bus more? It wasn't about price. Making it free was not really an incentive. It's only $1. It's actually more than $1, but they make it sound that way, like it's only $1, because they don't do transfers anymore. So to go anywhere, because the routes are like spoke and hub, which means they all got to go downtown, you have to go $1 there and then another $1 to go to where you're going. So it's really not $1 unless you're going downtown anyway. And that's just the one way. So it'll be $3 if you want to go round trip, because then you can ride all day for $3. So it's only $1 thing doesn't really work. But anyway, my point is, price wasn't the issue for folks. It was convenience, and there's not enough buses coming to the places you need to go. And when you do have a place that you can go to, again, you got to go downtown first to go someplace that where you'd rather have a more direct route that goes across town, not just into downtown. So getting control of RTA and then funding it better and running the company better, without question, is something we need to do. I think with that, we need to start transitioning over to electric buses, which, again, if we create more solar farms and wind farms, we could definitely take care of the electricity for that. And as the technology gets better, that'll be smoother as well. But we should not wait. We can't wait for the technology to get that much better. We got to go now and start doing it. But the whole key is to getting control of our GRTA, and that's going to involve state legislators, maybe even federal, but definitely state legislators. And we're going to have to, as a council member, I would be more than willing to reach out to all of the assembly and senators whom I know. I pretty much know all of them, and have had a relatively decent working relationship with them on a number of issues. And I think we need to start working to get more local control of our GRTA. So, I am going to, as I mentioned, next week, talk about some of these issues and how they can be economic opportunities. Because they're kind of win-win. It sounds like, hey, Dave, it sounds like some of the stuff you're talking about is going to cost a lot of money. Yeah, but we have it, and I've mentioned that. And I'm going to go into next week how even like the housing ideas from last week and almost everything, I try to make it intersectional where it's not just us spending money. For the most part, it's actually economic opportunities. Maybe not so much in the education part, but that is an investment, and that would be the way to do that. So speaking of the environment, I want to just a quick reminder that this campaign is not just to get me on city council. I also am trying to make every aspect of it something that helps our community. And I guess these videos are a part of that because it creates a dialogue. But one of our first campaign event that we're having, if you haven't heard, it's April 22nd. It's a Monday. It's actually on Earth Day. And we're playing Earth Day Bingo at Kearney's Pub. And it's actually right around the corner from where we're recording this. It's on East Main Street, 2001 East Main. Goes from 7 to 10 o'clock. We've got some cool little prizes that are generally connected to Earth Day and the environment, and you're really going to dig them. Everything is local that's going to be there, but again, nothing extra. You're not winning a new car. I'm sorry, and it's not that full contact bingo where people have 12 different bingo cards and and someone gets stabbed for trying to get a bingo card. It's nothing like that. It's going to be low competition, but light competition. That's what I'm trying to say. It'll be fun. It'll be informative, and it's at a local place. Even if you're not someone who imbibes, that's totally cool. There'll be soft drinks you can purchase there, but the play is free. So you should come. There's more information on the website. It's right on the front page, but it's also dayforchange.org/Earth Day. Pretty simple. Also helping out this campaign, I have a really awesome idea. I don't want to say what it is because I am running for office and it is competitive because I'm running against at least one other person. So I'd rather not give away all my secrets just yet. I do have a really cool idea that I would love to do with this campaign that would help the community, and it definitely would help with climate change, the environment in general, and some other issues that plague our city. But to do that, it's going to take a little bit of money. And I don't take corporate donations. I'm not taking any money from PACs, LLCs. I'm not even going to take money from unions. If anybody I would say if any of them wanted to endorse me, that would be great. But they've already had their interviews and they haven't asked any greens, which is kind of how they roll. That's how they roll. But anyway, I'm not taking money from any of the groups or like that. Only taking money from individuals. And the original goal was to get 1,000 people to donate $20 each. So if you're able to do that, I have this idea that would really be cool, would help the campaign, would get the word out, and also help our community. So if you get a chance, you can go to dayforchange.org, and there's the Change for a 20. That's the fundraising motto there. We're trying to create change for a 20. If you could make a donation, even if it's not $20, I guarantee you it will, whether it gets me elected or not, it will help our community. I guarantee it. And what else? Yeah, that's it. I'm just going to let you know about next week, how I'm going to take all this, as well as all the other issues I've been talking about, as well as the issues I'm going to be talking about, and kind of illustrate how all of these are very nice and well, but they are also economic drivers that can help us in a capitalist society, even though I would love to see us change that. But getting there. So we'll be back next week, same time, Sunday at 7. Put it on your calendar, Earth Day, 22nd of April, 7 to 10, Earth Day Bingo. If you have a chance and you're seeing this either live or in the next day or so, this Tuesday on the 16th is, I got a couple other things to talk about. This Tuesday on the 16th is City Council, that's downtown, and the Police Accountability Board Alliance is hoping for a really big turnout, because the Locust Club, the police union, is fighting back on this Police Accountability Board proposal. And they're trying to blow this thing up, and not in a good way. So if you can make it, wear black. You can call 311 if you want to speak to council, or just show up and support us. That would be great. And then 2 days later, on the 18th of April, the local Green Party is hosting a candidate forum for city court judge candidates. And my knowledge as of right now, at least 4 of the 6, I believe, have committed to come, and maybe the other 2 will be committing at some point in the next few days. But that's Thursday, the 18th. It's at the Flying Squirrel Community Space. And if you've never been there, it's really awesome. You should just come to check that out alone. It's at 285 Clarissa Street. It's in Cornhill. And that's part of the Green Party's monthly meeting. And it's going from 7 to 9. And that's really going to be cool. So you should come to that as well, because that's some candidate research on an important race that's going to be happening. All the races are important. Even if it's not 2020 yet, all of the races this year are important, all of the local ones. Okay, that's it. I'm done. See you next week. See you when I knock on your door. See you online, and let's get some change going.